Last night we saw the first TV finals of the World Series of Bowling with the Cheetah Championship. There were some newcomers, some bowlers still seeking their first title, and some very well known faces in yesterday's telecast. However, straight away in match 1, we were treated to an incredible showing between AJ Johnson and Jakob Butturff. And it made me wonder whether this was both the craziest match in PBA history, but also the biggest comeback in a match. Which is why today we're going to break this match down, as well as a full analysis of the entire show, including the title match. So first up in match 1, we can see both players playing the extreme outside part of the lane. This is a must for the Cheetah pattern, as it's the shortest pattern that is used on the tour, so generally you'll see the players being forced to play the extreme outside part of the lane. And as you can see here, AJ actually threw a gutter on his very first shot. And clearly this demonstrates the main problem of the Cheetah pattern. You have no miss room when you're basically pushing it out to 1 inch away from the gutter. And if you're using a reactive, then you feel like you don't have any room inside, as the ball will just hook. So you have no choice but to push the ball out and just trust the fact that you're going to get it out there. You're always going to run the risk of pushing one shot out too far. So a gutter on the Cheetah pattern certainly isn't unusual. AJ makes a better shot but can't make the spare and leaves an open frame in the first. Jakob steps up in the first and is going with a purple hammer. He gets a nice break kicking out the 7-pin. He throws another strike in the second frame, however it doesn't actually count. And this is where things start to get a little crazy, as it was ruled that he actually went over the foul line and it was ruled a foul. To me it looks very close and I can't quite tell from the angle if he did go over the line. But Jakob didn't seem to make any complaints, so perhaps he knew that he did in fact foul, but either way he didn't make a great shot on the spare, as he definitely throws it inside and it looked like it might have been a bit slow too. He goes through the nose for an open frame in the second. So already in just 3 frames we've had a gutter, a foul and 2 open frames. But it doesn't stop there. AJ bounces back with a strike in the second, but goes a little light in his next shot, leaving a 10-pin, which he takes care of. Jakob then makes 2 really nice shots in frames 3 and 4, and back to Johnson now, and he throws his second gutter of the match. Once again, he just pushes it out way too far, and because he's working on a spare, he loses valuable pins. However, he does manage to make the spare this time, which is at least something. But you're not going to believe this, but he actually puts it in the gutter again for a 3rd time in 5 frames. I think this must be unprecedented, and I can't remember this sort of thing happening on TV before, but he does again manage to pick up the spare. However, it's not looking good at all for AJ, as Jakob just carries on striking and leads by 45 pins after 6 frames. At this point the match is looking all but over. AJ throws a double and Jakob makes a fairly decent shot but leaves a 7-pin and then follows this with a strike. However, Johnson is still hanging in there and throws another 2 strikes in the 8th and 9th to keep his hopes alive. Back over to Jakob, who leaves another 7-pin but manages to spare it. You can see here on the spare he's still having footing issues and it looks like he almost fouls again, but just about manages to stay behind the line. Now to the 10th frame, where he needs 2 strikes and 7 pins to shut out AJ Johnson. But his first shot goes right through the nose. You can see that his break point is around 4.8 and his speed was 17.4 miles per hour. This was both inside and slightly slow if we compare this to his previous shot, where he made the pocket leaving the 7. The previous shot went out to around the 2 board and was 17.8 miles per hour. However, there's more drama when this first shot in the 10th was actually ruled another foul. Again, it's very close, but it does look like he goes over the line. This is an absolutely huge decision to call this a foul, as Jakob now loses 10 pins and a huge opportunity is handed to AJ. Jakob does manage to pull himself together and make the spare and finishes with a 203, leaving his opponent needing a strike and 8 pins. AJ makes a great shot in the 10th and gets the strike he needs, but there's a lot of pressure on this next shot as he still needs 8 pins, and the fact that he's already thrown 3 gutter balls. Well, in his head he's going to be thinking, don't push it out too far, but if he comes inside he runs the risk of going through the nose and leaving a crazy split. He seems to decide to just go for it and trust the ball, as he got the ball out to the right place. It did look like it was quite fast, as it barely made it back and he almost left a split, but he managed to get 9 and advance to match number 2. All I can say is, wow, what a match. I really don't know if there's ever been a PBA match that's had 3 gutters and 2 fouls, and AJ's comeback to win this one, well, it's definitely up there as one of the best comebacks in a match of all time. You never would believe that you can throw 3 balls in the gutter and yet still win the match. But what a way to start the telecast, and AJ moves on to match 2 to face Jakob Grondin, who's making his first PBA TV appearance. So right from the start of match 2, we can actually see the lanes are starting to break down. Just like in the end of game 1, you can see that AJ's ball just isn't quite making the pocket. He goes light, leaving the 2-8, and the ball overhooks massively on the spare attempt. Jakob is actually looking fairly comfortable for his TV debut, making some great shots. Johnson does seem to make some sort of change at this point as he throws 2 strikes and makes a comment to what I assume is his ball rep. He does appear to be throwing the same ball, so perhaps it was either that he made a move or perhaps a hand adjustment. He could have perhaps even used the same ball but with a slightly different drilling. The commentators didn't seem to mention anything like this, so I can't be sure. Jakob then makes a great shot in the 4th, but then threw it way inside in the 5th frame, leaving the 4-6-10. So jumping right ahead to the end of the match and the 9th frame, where both players are working on a strike and AJ has a 1-pin lead. But again, it seems like the oil has been pushed down, as just like at the start of the match, the ball just seems to be struggling to turn the corner and make it back to the pocket. He leaves the 2-8, and just like earlier in the match, he does the exact same thing and it overhooks for an open frame. Jakob just needs a mark to advance, which he manages to do, sparing the 4-pin. Now on to match 3, where we see the guy who's probably the bowler of the season so far. I am of course talking about Tackett. And just one thing to note is how low the scoring was in the first 2 matches. Normally on the cheetah pattern we see some huge scores, but not so far on this telecast. So straight away we can see that EJ is playing much deeper than the other players. Although he's still pushing it out to around the 3 board, he's much further left than Grondin is, and this is just illustrated by Grondin's next shot. He actually makes a ball change on the right, but just look at how straight Grondin is compared to EJ. He went back to the purple hammer on the left lane, and then makes another ball change on the right lane, going a little bit deeper, and it worked, giving him a strike in the 4th. Back on the left lane with the purple hammer, where he seems to keep leaving the 10-pin. But this shot is way inside, with the breakpoint being around the 5 board, and he goes through the nose, leaving the 6-10, which he converts. EJ is starting to come to life, and he's throwing a fantastic shot. He's just playing in an area that allows him to come just that little bit inside, but whereas for the other players the ball is overreacting, he's managing to get the ball to just sit there, and it just seems to be retaining its energy and therefore carrying all 10. We saw some shots earlier from the other players where they're getting a lot of over-under reaction, but EJ's just got a great consistent reaction when he gets it in that right spot. Grondin was struggling a little bit in this match, as he seemed to be getting a different reaction on both lanes, hence the different balls on each lane and the ball changes on the right lane. He did try and hang in there, but with EJ, who just kept striking with great shot after great shot, it just turned out to be a little bit too much for Grondin to overcome, and EJ just needed a mark in the 10th to shut Jakob out. Now just look at this shot from EJ. You know what I said earlier about EJ having that room inside where the ball just holds? Well, look at this shot. He's way inside, but the ball just stays, and he still somehow makes the pocket. This just shows you the sort of area he was able to create. He makes the spare and advances to the final match. A valiant effort from Jakob Grondin, but Tackett was just too good overall in that match. Now we come to the final match where EJ faces BJ Moore. Now there's not too much to analyse here really, because EJ was just too good in this final match, but there are a couple of interesting things we can look at. BJ Moore actually does the same thing as AJ Johnson and throws it in the gutter in the first frame, and can't make the spare going through the nose for a 6 count. He throws a much better shot in the second, and we can see that it looks like he's trying to play the same shot that EJ is to be able to create that bit of hold room on the inside. EJ makes it 3 in a row, however, to start the match, and straight away we can see that BJ Moore is having the same issue the other players were having. You get it a little wide and it struggles to make the pocket. You try and play a bit straight or a little bit more inside and it just goes through the nose. He misses this spare, and already after just 3 frames he's handed EJ a huge advantage, and you just can't give away that many pins to someone like Tackett. Tackett makes it 4 in a row, but then leaves a 10 pin in the 5th. Now I just want to show you a couple more shots that Moore threw, as they really show the difference in ball reaction between the players. Here you can see that this time the ball just overreacts, and then on the next shot, although he makes the pocket, just look at how weak it hits. It's just another example of the over-under reaction, but then EJ's ball was just hitting like an absolute train, and his ball reaction was just really consistent in both matches. But ultimately, with a 69 pin lead after 7 frames, clearly EJ ran away with this one, and BJ Moore was not really able to conjure up any sort of resistance or put EJ at any sort of pressure throughout the match. But it was a fantastic display that earned Tackett his 20th PBA Tour title and his 4th title of this season. So that brings us to an end of today's video. It was a really enjoyable show to watch, and that first match was incredible with all those twists and turns. But it was EJ's performance that was the real story of this one, and it's yet another well-deserved title. Thank you all for watching, and please do comment below and let me know your thoughts about the first match between AJ Johnson and Jakob. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you all for watching. If you have enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate it if you could go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, bowling fans, and see you all next time.